Chris, come over to this side. I can put some CP.
Sure.
We got everybody? Great. Well, good evening, everybody. Tonight, our Providence neighbors can finally breathe a little easier. In a minute, Colonel Perez will share the latest details on the investigation, but I want to thank the people of Providence for stepping up and coming together during an extraordinarily difficult time. I know this has been hard on all of us. Over the past 5 days, minutes have felt like hours, but the people of Providence have done what we're best at. We've leaned on one another, come together, and supported one another, and showed the nation what a tight-knit community looks like. It was because of the information provided to us by neighbors and the tireless work of our Providence Police Department, the Rhode Island State Police, the FBI, the ATF, and many other federal partners. The incredible prosecutorial advice and guidance that we received from the Attorney General's office. We all worked well together to be able to identify this suspect. I know we will have a lot of questions still, and we will continue to work to get those answers. But it is a great honor for me to turn this over to our Chief of Police, Colonel Oscar Perez, and I will say on behalf of the people of Providence, we owe him and every member of the Providence Police Department the deepest debt of gratitude. Colonel?
Thank you very much, Mayor. Well, first and foremost, I want to offer my deepest condolences to the families, the victims. It was for them that this work was put together to make sure that they get the justice that they deserve and to ensure that this person was held accountable. Second thing I'll tell you is that I'm extremely proud of this department, actually the officers, the detectives, the Real-Time Crime Center, the Community Response Team, the Intelligence Division, the Narcotics Division, the Task Force. This past Saturday, as you all know, December 13, Providence Police Department and Brown University Police Department responded to this horrific tragedy at Brown University 184 Hope. Our officers were there within minutes. That same day, Providence Police detectives immediately went to work. Looking for video footage to see who this individual was and who was responsible. A person of interest was identified from that video footage. The person of interest was observed on Hope Street, turning onto Waterman Street, and that was one of the first videos that we released. At the same time, every federal agency you can think of was reaching out to the Providence Police Department and responded to the capital city. Images were shared with media within hours. Persons of interest it was the same individual that has been the focus of this investigation since the beginning. All the new images that we received of this person of interest were shared with the media continuously over the past 6 days. This critical evidence was collected with the use of public assistance. As the mayor stated, I'm proud to be the chief of police of this city. I'm proud to be a product of this city for the reasons that the mayor stated. The community stepped up. It was all about groundwork, public assistance, interviews of individuals, and good old-fashioned policing. That is the type of police work that every police officer in this nation reminds themselves of, and that many do not understand. And that is critically important and often succeeds where technology alone cannot. We looked at financial records, we looked at video footages, and in the specific incident, it was actually a video that provided us with a description of a vehicle. That was corroborated through a tip that was received to the tip center. That room was packed with detectives, agents, receiving calls on a daily basis. We started early and left late. then Flock and the LPR was able to provide us with this description of this vehicle. That vehicle was picked up by Flock, which led us to a car rental place in Massachusetts. Through that, the agents and their work as well were able to get us footage of this individual, as well as a copy of the agreement which provided his real name. The video of that subject matched the description of that person of interest that this police department was desperate to put handcuffs on. That individual was identified as Claudio Neves Valenti, date of birth, and he was a 48-year-old man. He was a Brown student, he was a Portuguese national, and his last known address was in Miami, Florida. And I will tell you that he took his own life tonight. We have members of the Providence Police Department up in Salem, New Hampshire, and we also have the BCI unit. Obviously, the FBI and their evidence recovery unit is up there, so the process is being conducted as we speak. And it goes without saying that I would like to personally thank the efforts again of the Providence Police Department, the Rhode Island State Police, the Rhode Island Attorney General, the FBI, the ATF, HSI, the U.S. Marshals, IRS, DEA, Secret Service, and NCIS. There is no way that we could have done this by ourselves. In this nation, when horrific incidents like this happen, law enforcement steps up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colonel. General Ronas?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. You know, it's, I would describe the emotions on the investigative team, including our prosecutors and the agents, detectives from both state police, Providence, as mixed. You know, there is a sense of completeness in terms of the investigation, an investigation that's, if not the hardest, among the handful of hardest investigations that I've ever been involved with. And the sense that we owed those 2 dead Brown students and the 9 injured Brown students and the students who were in that auditorium that weren't injured, and the Brown community and the Providence community results. The teams worked really hard. I think I mentioned that to you almost every night that we met with you. I wish they were all up here with us. That we wouldn't fit here, but it was remarkable to see the cooperation between the FBI agents, the ATF agents, the HSI agents, the Providence police detectives, the state police detectives, our prosecutors. And I will say that everybody brought a certain expertise to the table, but it is nevertheless a sad moment when you think about those young people who were hurt, injured, or worse, or 2 of them are now deceased. You know, to me, this was always going to be an investigation where something was going to break it open. We were going to pull threads. We were going to gather evidence that would lead us in a particular direction. And I will say that if we were with you less than, well, I guess now more than 24 hours ago, we had that picture of that second individual. And I would say within an hour, no more than 2, I think it was under an hour, that person came forward to 2 Providence police officers over on the east side and said he had information, that he was that person and he had information that could help this case. And I remember last night watching his interview, and he blew this case right open. He blew it open. And that's how these cases sometimes go. You can feel like you're not making a lot of progress. You can feel like you're chasing leads and they don't work out. But the team keeps going because, you know, those of us with experience know that you're going to pull a lot of threads, and it's not always the first one that's going to get you where you need to go. But when you do crack it, you crack it. And that person led us to the car, which led us to the name, which led us to the photographs of that individual renting the car, which matched the clothing of our shooter here in Providence that matched the satchel that we see here in Providence. He was found dead with a satchel with 2 firearms and evidence in the car that that matches exactly what we see at the scene here in Providence. And so I know that you and the public have questions about how we got from a place yesterday where all we could share with you was a photograph of someone we wanted to talk to where we got to tonight. And so we got a state arrest warrant for murder today that was signed by a district court judge for this individual. There won't be a prosecution now, of course, but that affidavit is on our website, and you will be able to see more and read more about how this investigation unfolded. I won't get you all the way there because there are some things that happened afterwards which led us to this suspect's body in New Hampshire. But it will, I think, tell you, give you a sense of the work that went into this by the line prosecutors and the line agents and detectives from the agencies that work so well together. So, you know, as I said, it's with mixed emotions. It is unimaginable, the pain that the parents and families of the deceased are feeling tonight and will feel undoubtedly for quite a while. But I hope that by bringing this person to justice, that we can at least give them the beginnings of some measure of closure. And I want to thank you all for your patience with me when I got a little testy with some of you. Those of you who know me from Rhode Island, you know that's my nature. So I really want to thank you for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you, General. As has been said several times, the partnership with the FBI was invaluable. And so it's a pleasure to introduce Special Agent in Charge of FBI, Ted Dox.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening. My name is Ted Dox, Special Agent in Charge of FBI Boston. We got him. Shortly before 9 o'clock tonight, the FBI SWAT team executed court-authorized search warrants at a storage unit facility in Hampshire Road in Salem, New Hampshire. This is where we located Claudio Neves Valente, the individual who we believe was responsible for the Brown shooting. The latest developments in an intense 5-day manhunt and as a result of an incredible amount of work dedicated by the law enforcement team standing here before you tonight. Every single agency brought their unique skills and expertise to this investigation. And we're motivated by the victims and survivors of this horrific incident. Even though the suspect was found dead tonight, our work is not done. There are many questions that need to be answered. There's a lot of evidence that needs to be processed, and most importantly, the victims and their families deserve special care and consideration. The FBI and our partners across Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire will continue to search for answers for the victims, survivors, and their families to see what motivated this individual to carry out such a senseless act of violence. From the onset of this critical incident, it's been all hands on deck. The FBI deployed approximately 500 special agents, analysts, task force officers, and support personnel to assist our partners in this investigation. In addition to this extra manpower, all our specialty teams were activated, including Evidence Response Team, SWAT, Divert, and Victim Services Response Team, just to name a few. A special thanks to you, the media, as well as to the community. My sincere thanks to Colonel Perez, Colonel Weaver, AG Nerona, Brown University PD, and all of our partners. This was truly a team effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Another critical partner at every step along the way was the ATF. I'd like to introduce Special Agent in Charge of the ATF, Tom Greco.
Good evening. My name is Tom Greco, the Special Agent in Charge of ATF Boston. From the moment 911 reports of the shooting at Brown University came through, there's been an around-the-clock effort to identify the perpetrator and to protect the community. The men and women of ATF, including our special agents, our intelligence research specialists, and our support personnel, have been proud to support and be part of that effort, leveraging our unique experience, dedicated investigators, canine handlers, and crime gun intelligence technology such as NIBIN, the National Integrated Ballistics Information Network, to compare ballistic evidence, and our other available tools to support the investigation, and to help identify Claudio Neves Valente as the individual that we believe was responsible. ATF's mission, first and foremost, is to protect communities from violent crime. Each individual in this country deserves to live in peace and security in their homes, in their schools, in their places of worship, and in the streets. The actions of Claudio Neves Valente stole that right and terrorized the community. I'd like to emphasize to the public, was a highly dangerous individual capable of extreme violence. And we are happy to have been part of this investigation and proud to have worked with our partners to identify him and see this through. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. From the very outset on Saturday, from our first press conference in the fire station to today, Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee has been by Providence's side every step of the way. The City of Providence is incredibly grateful for the governor's support, the state police, not just their assistance with the investigation, but in supporting the broader community. It's a pleasure to introduce Governor Dan McKee.
Thanks, Mayor, and clearly your staff, I feel the same way with the team that you have, that we were happily able to assist. And as a former mayor, many of here in the audience know that I've been a mayor, some don't, but I empathize and sympathize with the position that you were in and the fact that you needed people to follow the lead of the Providence Police and to partner in with some extraordinary people, whether it's with the FBI or the ATF, and of course our state police as well. From the very beginning, my thoughts as a dad was with the families who suffered from the shooting. The unthinkable happened in our state. The unthinkable happened in Providence. The unthinkable happened at Brown University. And we're going to be forever changed. But our commitment from the state level is to continue to support Providence, Brown, and the people of the state of Rhode Island in the recovery. That's going to take a great deal of time. But I do say this. The professionalism that I saw in the law enforcement should make everyone that lives in our state and beyond our borders feel very safe. These things happen, but it requires some professional help and law enforcement to bring it to the conclusion that we've been able to bring it to. So, Colonel, thank you, everybody involved. And again, we will stand with Providence and Brown University and the people of the state of Rhode Island to provide the help that will be needed in the recovery in a trauma like this.
Thank you, Governor. Throughout the year, the Rhode Island State Police is an incredible partner to Providence, but during this investigation, their support was invaluable. I introduce Colonel of the State Police, Colonel Weaver.
My name is Colonel Darnell Weaver, the Superintendent of the Rhode Island State Police. I want to begin by recognizing the excellent and exceptional efforts of the Providence Police Department and Colonel Oscar Perez. From the very first moments of this investigation, the Providence Police Department has worked collaboratively and relentlessly day and night on this investigation while protecting our capital city. Their detectives followed facts, developed evidence, and pursued every credible lead. Colonel Perez's leadership has been steady and decisive, focused on identifying the person responsible for this tragedy. As always, our troopers stepped up, working shoulder to shoulder with the Providence Police and our local, state, and federal partners. I want to give particular recognition to our detectives, whose diligence and dedication contributed to this investigation. Our detectives and division leadership operated as a unified team, sharing intelligence, resources, and expertise. This has truly been an all-hands-on-deck investigation, as virtually every trooper has taken extra shifts to help support the efforts in Providence, and I have never been prouder to be a member of the Rhode Island State Police. This year marks the 100th anniversary of the Rhode Island State Police, and this case stands out among one of the most challenging in our state's history. The sheer volume of digital evidence, the complexity of the investigation, and the intense public interest played an extraordinary demands on everyone involved. Despite that pressure, investigators remained disciplined, methodical, and focused on facts. We are grateful for the assistance of the public, particularly those who shared our information, provided tips, and gave us doorbell camera footage and access to their property. We are also thankful for the ongoing support of Rhode Islanders. We know that you have been with us through this entire investigation. I also want to be very clear about something else. Criminal investigations are grounded in evidence, not speculation or online commentary. The endless barrage of misinformation, disinformation, rumors, leaks, and clickbait were not helpful in this investigation. Distractions and unfounded criticisms do not support this work. They complicate it and threaten to undermine the justice we seek for the victims and the grieving families. Despite these challenges, good police work prevailed, and we have lessons that we can bring forward from these long days ahead. To the Brown University community and the people of Rhode Island, be assured that this case reflects the law enforcement community and what we are capable of, and that we are committed to this state. We will continue to support the victims and the broader community as the healing continues. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. Providence is so proud to be home to Brown University, and we are committed to working together with them in the future as they help heal their community as we do our broader Providence community. We continue to give condolences to the deceased and our prayers to those who are recovering. The leader of Brown has been a great partner through this whole process. I'd like to introduce President Christina Paxson from Brown University.
Thank you. You know, nothing can really fully bring closure to the lives that have been shattered over the past week, but this may allow our community to move forward and begin a path of repair and recovery and healing. I want to thank the dedicated law enforcement agencies that have worked so tirelessly on this case, really around the clock, as well as our neighbors and others who participated in giving tips and helping with the investigation. We hope that this outcome tonight brings an increased sense of safety for our community at Brown and in the surrounding area. This has been a period of great fear and anxiety for many people, and now perhaps some form of relief. Truly, this week has been devastating for our community in a number of ways, including the experiences that members of our community have had with being targeted by online rumors and accusations. And I hope that this development also means an end to this truly troubling activity. So we remain focused on the safety and security of our community and in support for the victims of this senseless violence. Now, we know the public and our own Brown community members will want to know more about the individual now identified by law enforcement as the suspect in last weekend's shooting. And we can confirm the following to the best of our knowledge, based on our review in the very short time since law enforcement authorities made us aware of this development. And we provided this information to law enforcement as they build their case and wrap up the investigation. So Claudia Manuel Neves Valente was enrolled at Brown from the fall of 2000 to the spring of 2001. He was admitted to Brown's graduate school to study in the Master's of Science PhD program in physics, beginning on September 1st, 2000. And he took a leave of absence effective April 2001 before formally withdrawing effective July 31st, 2003. During his time at Brown, Nueves Valente was enrolled only in physics classes. The majority of physics classes at Brown have always been held within the Barris and Hawley classrooms and labs. Now, detailed records indicating where specific courses were held don't extend back to 2001. But we can say that physics classes typically require access to specialized equipment, including demonstration carts that are a fixed asset in some of Barris and Hawley classrooms. So I think it's safe to assume that this man, when he was a student, spent a great deal of time in that building for classes and other activities as a PhD student in physics. He has no current active affiliation with the university or campus presence. So again, we thank law enforcement and so many others for their extensive work on this case, day and night, and we look forward to a sense of restored safety for Brown, Providence, and the Rhode Island communities. Thank you.
Thank you, President Paxson. The last speaker, and then we will take your questions, is the Chief of the Brown Police Department, Chief Chapman. Remember, his officers were the first to respond on Saturday, and we are so grateful for both their immediate and heroic response and their partnership over the last 5 days. Chief.
I want to express my ongoing prayers and care and concern for our entire community. I certainly also want to acknowledge and thank the men and women of the Brown University Police and Public Safety for their efforts. As you see, this was a Herculean task and required a lot of collaboration and work. And our officers and our public safety personnel were shoulder to shoulder with these assets. I do want to also thank all of you who have helped citizens and law enforcement. That partnership and collaboration means the world to us, and we couldn't have gotten there without you. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. We'll now open up to questions. Go ahead. Go ahead.
What led authorities to link the incidents between Brown University and MIT?
Yep, I can do that.
Then I can follow up to that.
Yeah, I'll start. I'll just tell you that a lot of the information and evidence that we ended up gathering linked us to a connection up in Massachusetts, obviously at the MIT, but I feel a respect to the authorities in Mass as well as the FBI that's for them to comment, but I'll tell you that the groundwork that started in the city of Providence by our detectives, the detective division under the command of Major LePayan, as well as the federal partners that we had in our room upstairs, and ATF, the FBI, led us to that connection, and so that was great work.
Special Agent about this FBI want to weigh in on that? And then I have a follow-up.
I think through that particular link that you're talking about, that case is being worked out of Massachusetts with the leadership of U.S. Attorney Leah Foley. I believe that they are having a press conference today as well, where they'll reveal more to the general public at that time. I'd be remiss to start and kind of talk on this, to let them kind of have first dibs to kind of be the ones to tell the public about those particular links.
And your follow-up.
But your follow-up, sir.
Then, as for the second person who came forward, what did that person tell you, and did that person know the shooter?
So yeah, obviously I had mentioned at the last press conference that it was a person that we wanted to speak with. The work of the video collections that we had led us to identify that there was a person that actually encountered this individual. So it corroborated everything that we saw. We saw a person of interest. We saw that there was a vehicle involved. And this person came in, broke the case in the sense that explained to us exactly what we thought we had seen and put that individual at the crime scene. Obviously, that was the break because we knew that we were in the right direction to ensure that we were going after this individual that obviously took his life.
Colonel?
Go ahead. Steve?
Thank you, Mayor. Did Mr. Valenti act alone, and is there an anti-Semitism component behind this, do you expect?
As far as we know, Steve, he acted alone.
And is there an anti-Semitism component to this?
No, that we know of, no.
John?
Colonel, what was the events that led to the storage facility? So was he pursued there? Did he know authorities were going after him? When was he last alive? Like, how did that play out?
So it plays out in the sense that we obviously, I just stated, we collected all the evidence. We were able to learn that there was a rental vehicle. We learned about that vehicle. There was financial records that were verified by the FBI, obviously, and other agencies. I'm sorry, actually, so another agency, so multiple agencies that verified financial records that brought us to that site to know that he had actually rented a site at the storage unit, and then we ended up in Salem.
And a follow-up.
Yeah.
When he did that, did he know authorities were coming, or did he just go and, like, how long had he been in that storage unit?
That we're not aware of, John, in the sense that all we knew is that we were on a manhunt, and that's what he led us to. So.
Amanda?
Oh, thanks. Chief, I have some questions for you about Claudio. So he graduated, he didn't graduate, he was at Brown more than 20 years ago. His last known address was in Miami, but now he's here at Brown University, potentially also at MIT. What do you know about what brought him up here?
There's going to be unknown answers that we have no answer as far as that. Obviously, came up here and committed this horrific incident and this tragedy, and that's all we knew. Our mission was to ensure that we could find him and bring him to justice, but yeah,
No
no.
motive
At this point, correct.
And my follow-up is, of the evidence that you collected, have you collected a handgun that you believe was used in the shooting? Have you collected any type of manifesto or evidence that he planned more shootings?
So as far as I know, that's the FBI evidence recovery team is up in Salem, New Hampshire, and they're collecting whatever evidence is up there. This happened just now, as before we came up here.
Bill?
Any criminal history, political affiliations, any social media posts, anything of that sort that you can report to us about Mr. Valenti?
Nothing that I know of, Steve.
Chief,
Behind him.
What he said?
Go ahead, white shirt.
Is there any indication that Mr. Valenti was planning any future attacks?
Nothing that we know of, no.
Can you not,
In the way back.
Special Agent Docs, can you also tell us if the connection, I know you said you can't talk too much about the MIT, but the fact that it was a physics professor out of MIT and in the physics building and he was studying physics, have you tied all that up, and does that lead, why target one person in Massachusetts and then a whole class here in Providence?
Yes, it is true that Mr. Valenti was a physics student. Also, we know that the MIT, the victim there, was in that discipline as well. I will tell you that there's multiple phases to an investigation, and so now, in a sense that we know the subject is deceased. Now that investigation continues to find out all of those answers to your question, sir.
Did he go to school with Professor? Did he go to school with Professor who's killed at Brown? Answer that.
It is believed that in Lisbon that those two individuals attended the same university in Portugal.
And for the
You have a
colonel,
follow-up in the back.
follow-up en español, si nos pudiera decir también unas palabras, ya sea ahorita o cuando terminemos
Yes, sir.
Muy poquito.
Go for it.
But,
Sorry, empiezo desde el principio.
Lo que nos pueda resumir acerca del caso, ¿qué fue lo que conllevó a que ustedes pudieran dar con el paradero del sospechoso y las conexiones que tuvieron? ¿Cómo llegaron a rastrearlo y más que nada a qué atribuye todo esto?
So the question was if I can briefly explain how we got to this individual and what occurred. So, verdaderamente lo que pasó, obviamente el incidente del sábado 13 nos llevó a tomar evidencias, colectar evidencias de videos, de informaciones, y expliqué que es muy importante el trabajo de los policías y los detectives en el piso, haciendo el trabajo duro, recolectando videos, recolectando testimonios, En este tipo de casos recibimos información, obviamente, de los videos que colectamos. Nos dimos cuenta que había un vehículo de interés y una persona de interés desde el principio. Eso nos llevó a después informarnos de la placa del carro, la descripción del carro, y eso nos llevó a darnos cuenta de que esa persona había rentado el vehículo en una compañía en Massachusetts. Después de que fue a Massachusetts, cogimos videos de la persona. Esa persona era en la misma descripciones de la persona de interés de nosotros acá en la ciudad de Providence. De ahí pasamos con los agentes federales a investigar un poco más y llegamos a los récords financieros que nos llevó a Salem, New Hampshire, en esta noche. Allá hubo una entrada táctica del equipo del FBI y encontramos que esta persona se había quitado la vida ellos mismos. Ahora estamos investigando más si hay algo que necesitamos saber más de él.
Alex.
Colonel, or is there a note or manifesto of some kind, and is that providing any information about a motive or anything that they might have found any information?
Again, the FBI recovery team in forensics are up in Salem, New Hampshire. At this point, we don't have any of that.
Any indication of why now? What's the significance behind why this happened on Saturday?
That we don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we know the answer to that question. I think there's a lot of unknowns with respect to motive. I mean, I think that the real issue here is, the key was to identify this person, as we talked about yesterday. I think there are other answers that are coming, but, once we were able to identify him, thanks to that individual who came forward, who led us to a plate, which led us to a rental car, which led us to that we rented that car in his own name, that really broke the case open. But in terms of why Brown, I think that is a mystery. I think there may be something going on in Massachusetts that I'm not fully familiar with because we're working this angle, but I think the Massachusetts authorities may be able to share that. Yeah, I don't think we have any idea why now or why Brown, why these students, why this classroom. That is really unknown to us, and it may become clear. I hope that it does, but it hasn't as of right now.
Fox.
This is for the Colonel or the Attorney General. At 2:16 was a surveillance video that showed this second person that apparently blew this case wide open, and also Mr. Valente. You see them disappear behind bushes. Was this second person following the shooter? Did he recognize him and confront him? What was that interaction like? And I have a follow-up.
That's a great question, and I'll be all explained in the affidavit that the general stated it will be released. But I'll give you a brief sort of explanation about that. The person that we wanted to speak with had an interaction with this individual earlier in the day, then observed him later at that time what you just stated, and decided that he was going to encounter him and asked him why he was inside Brown. At that point, the person, the subject of interest, Neves, actually ran. He was caught up by our person that we wanted to speak with. There was sort of a conversation between the two of them, and Neves asked him, "Why are you harassing me?" And at that point, the person that broke the case walked away. And that information was critical to us because he was able to corroborate what our detectives were seeing on video, and he was able to provide a great explanation.
And my follow-up question
Yes.
is, why did it take a citizen to notice a suspicious person right next to Brown University and not the police? And also, how long was the vehicle parked where it was? And was it days, hours, minutes? What are you talking
It appeared to be days as far as the evidence. Why would a civilian observe that to be suspicious? It's a great point, and I like the fact that you're mentioning that and bringing that up. That's what we should all be doing, right? And it's just personality. Some people are more interested in finding out what others are doing. In this particular case, this person decided that he wanted to, and I'm glad he did.
Shouldn't the police be interested in that, not citizens? That's what I was
In the back.
Now that the suspect, Attorney General, now that the suspect won't be prosecuted, can you explain what he yelled in the classroom to America tonight so people can feel a little more comfortable?
Sure.
Was it something, terrorist related? Was it something specific to the kids in that class?
Yeah.
What did he say? Can you now tell us?
Yeah, well, back to that question just for a minute, just to clarify that. They had a interaction in the bathroom in Barris and Holly. So, I don't know, the Providence Police is obviously not going to patrol Barris and Holly. That's a question frankly, for Brown and their police department. So they had an interaction there, and then our citizen, followed him out because to him, as he explained it to us, This guy did not belong there. And so that's why he followed him out. In terms of what was said, I don't know any more today than what I told you yesterday, or the day before. There are some witnesses who said he said nothing. There are some that say he made a barking noise. Don't ask me. I don't know why. And that's it. There is no other spoken word beyond that we are aware of as we stand before you tonight. And we have spoken to everybody that we have been able to locate who's been inside that building.
And just to the special agent in charge, my follow-up question is, can you just be clear to the people in Massachusetts, and I know you said the people in Norfolk County and investigators in Mass, but you did say a few days ago that you talked to the colonel of the state police and said there's no connection between Brookline and what happened here in Rhode Island. But now you're saying there was a connection. So are you saying that he shot up Brown University, then 2 days later he was at his house in Brookline to shoot this MIT professor, and then he just drove up to Salem, New Hampshire for no reason? How did he get into a storage facility?
No, I think that's a great question. My actual statement was that we didn't see a connection at that time. But absolutely, I spoke to the colonel. Right now, that case is being presided over by U.S. Attorney Leah Foley. They're having a press conference at 10 o'clock tonight, I believe. I think at that time, they will speak to that particular case. I would be getting a little bit ahead of my skis if I spoke to that case without consultation with Leah Foley and her team, as we've been in the trenches working this up to the minute today, sir.
But I guess 2 days ago you didn't know they were connected, now you're saying they appear to be.
Yes, and that's how cases often go. I would say at that time, when that question was asked of me, there was no indication of a link at that time. As we've talked throughout this week, these breadcrumbs develop, and we'll see what she has to say today at 10 p.m.
If I could I just want to jump in here on that, please. I just want to jump in here on that because it's a good question. It's an important one. So, just to put everyone's mind at ease who's listening now, he didn't just drive to some random storage area. We found records with the help of the FBI and others that was his storage area. So he rented a car in Boston. He drove it. We were able to find that car in New Hampshire. We were able to find evidence in the car from looking at it from the outside that connected this individual to our crime scene here in Rhode Island. We were able to find visual evidence of him inside that storage facility, which, in my judgment, matches him to the Massachusetts scene. So you'll hear more, as the special agent said, but there is no question that was his storage unit, that he had a particular car, that we found that car because of this citizen coming forward and giving us a description of the car, and then our individual who came forward, we knew he was telling the truth because we could see it on the videotape. And so that was a series of things that broke this case, and that led us to Salem, where the suspect was found dead.
Staff. Believed to be living in Miami. Did he fly here at some point? How long was he in Providence for, and when did he obtain the guns?
Go ahead.
Yeah, he did, like I said, he'll be in the affidavit, but he did fly into Providence, I believe, earlier October, I believe. That's the right date. And what was the other question? I'm sorry, Steph.
And did he buy the guns here? Where did he get the guns?
So I'm sorry, I can't answer that.
We don't know the answer to that, Steph, as we stand here right now.
Okay, you can't fly with them, so assuming he got them sometime after he arrived.
Well, that's possible. What we do know is that he was moving around New England in that October, November, December area. You remember, we just we know that there's a body in New Hampshire. We know that there are guns at the scene. It still remains to be examined, comparing those guns to the ballistics evidence we have in Rhode Island, and I imagine they'll do that in Massachusetts, but again, that's somebody else's investigation. And then, of course, we want to make sure that we match the DNA. But we are 100% confident that this is our target, and that this case is closed from a perspective of pursuing people involved.
And Steph, just to add, I think Special Agent Doc stated, obviously we didn't know who he was. And so it's very difficult to know what a person did prior without any knowledge of who that person is.
Dan. Can I just ask Special Agent this question? It sounds like from
You know, I will say that in this particular situation, that individual will likely get absolutely some aspect of that award. We've had a lot of other tips, I will tell you as well, that have come in from the public. And so I don't deal typically with the distribution of those rewards. But I mean, it would be logical to think that absolutely that individual would be entitled to some of that reward. Yes, sir.
Second row, red shirt. Go ahead. Yeah, you.
Thank you. Fox News Digital, do we know when or how the suspects left Providence? For the trial.
Well, we know he left Providence and committed a homicide in another state, and that. But we don't know. I'm sorry. How did he leave?
No, do we know when he left Providence?
Yeah, when he left. That's what as far as we know, that he left. But we didn't. I believe his last activity was obviously when we found out he was in another state committing another crime.
Pat.
Pat Ford, Coalition Radio. I'll throw this out to all of you, but with particular regards to the Brown University president. A recurring theme for the last few days has been an outreach, ultimately successful, to the people of Rhode Island and the people of New England to track this individual down. While at the same time, we've got this sort of passive-aggressive criticism of individuals who are being actively asked to engage via social media, who are wildly spreading rumors, some of which couldn't have possibly emanated anywhere than law enforcement. And I do have a follow-up. So does anyone like to respond to that? I mean, it's kind of condescending to a lot of people. I know, Governor Key, if you're confused, that's not uncommon. But the...
All right, that's uncalled for. All right, we're moving on. Current. No, current.
Came forward with the case-breaking tip. Was that information originally posted online? Or was that person encouraged to come forward based on what people online?
Correct. There was a tip that was placed online, and obviously we were doing our due diligence to find out who that tipster was. And then we were able to identify this person who we wanted to speak with, and then we learned that that person was actually the same person that put the tip on that up that you're speaking about.
Brian.
I'm sorry?
That person within the area.
It was the same person that we brought into the police station to speak with.
The images
Brian.
that you showed at the beginning, where you can see Mr. Valente's face, where were those images taken from?
They were taken from the car rental business place that we learned about.
None of them were Brown.
No.
President Paxson, if you could, so if the situation is described that you had the suspected gunman and this other person had an encounter in the engineering building hours before the shooting. I have been told by an employee that there have been concerns raised at Brown previously about people getting in the building. Have you heard those, and was anything done to address those concerns about people getting into the building?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I think we're going to have to look back and say, you know, we don't know how this person got in. We don't know when they came in. We do know that the building was unlocked that day for exams, and that's something we're going to have to look into.
Had you heard concerns from staff members in the past?
I have not personally heard concerns, but, yeah.
Dan.
President Paxson, Dan Jay from NBC 10. I want to go back to the question I asked you Saturday night when I first arrived on the scene. There were no cameras in this building. And law enforcement, some that are standing up behind you, have said if Brown had cameras in that part of the building, we would have gotten this guy. And it may have stopped this swirling action. Can you answer that question for me?
Well, I don't think we have said the locations of cameras at Brown. We
But
have
there's no cameras in that
we
building,
have
because why would they take it from a rental car agency?
we have 1,200 cameras at Brown.
But not in that building.
We have some in that building. It's a large complex. And I think what you would see is the video evidence in this case, from my perspective, I'm not a law enforcement agent, has been incredibly helpful. The moving of the person around the neighborhood, those video images, they help crack this case. So I think video was important. And as the Attorney General explained at a recent press conference, this individual was not spending his time on the Brown campus. He came into a building on the edge of the campus, he left, he was in the neighborhoods, the investigation focused on the neighborhoods, the video was there, and that was really, really instrumental in cracking the case. But you can ask them.
And this is my follow-up, Madam President, if you'd say the podium. Yes, video played a big role in this case. The neighbor's video, the rental car video, but not the video from the building that he walked in freely both before when he got in a confrontation and when he came back in and decided to kill people. You didn't have cameras in that building, just say it, so we can get this over. And my next question is, will you put cameras in, will you put the cameras in the building? Will there be more cameras in that building?
Yeah, you know, I think we need to look back, we'll look at everything that is done, but I do not think a lack of cameras in that building, it had anything to do with what happened there. And we will go forward. Thank you.
Tom.
Tom Quinlan, WPRO. Colonel Perez, I'm hearing from sources that the person that identified the shooter happened to be a homeless person that either lived around or inside that Barris and Holly building. Can you confirm more about this person for us? And then I have a follow-up for President Paxton.
I'll tell you there was a person that was pretty attentive about his surroundings. I'll tell you there was a person that was very cooperative and helpful to this investigation. And I'll tell you that he was a great individual that actually assisted us in getting us to this point where we're at. I'll tell you that.
Was he a Brown graduate?
He was, yes.
Yeah, I'd have to say, he was incredibly articulate, and his testimony, had we needed it, would not only have been credible, it would have been persuasive. He was as outstanding a witness as I've seen, and he deserves a lot of credit. You know, recognizing there's a gunman on the loose, that the gunman knows he had this interaction with him, and he didn't, once he knew that we were looking for his help, I mean, he came forward within an hour, and that person deserves a tremendous amount of credit. I don't know whether he's going to get the reward or not, but if I had a vote, he would.
All right, Tom, you got to follow. You're done? Go ahead.
My question was for Chair Chapman, if you wouldn't mind. In October, the Brown Daily Herald reported that you had a vote of no confidence in your leadership, and students were concerned for their safety and the fact that you had prioritised desk jobs over having field jobs and having more people patrolling the campus. Now, in light of this, do you accept any kind of responsibility for this? And now that we've given these prior warnings, are you going to reevaluate how the Brown police operate in the future now, so this doesn't happen again and these students can feel more safe on campus when they return?
Great. So as I stated earlier, I'm profoundly proud of the men and women of public safety and profoundly proud of our police department. We will continue with the heroic work that they've done and continue to work side by side with our partners. And everything else that comes with that is a continual effort to do what is best for the safety and security of our campus.
But will you reassess how the people are allocated within your department?
Every single day, we work and endeavor to keep our campus safe, whatever that entails and all that entails.
In the back.
Yes, Kimothy P. I was wondering, maybe this is a question for the Colonel. Can you talk about, you said that 2 weapons were found in Valenti's car. Is that one of those weapons, the gun that was used to shoot here at Brown? Has that weapon been found? Can you speak to that?
That's all part of this continuing investigation. This just, before we came downstairs, actually, as you all were watching, that was developing up in Salem, New Hampshire.
And can you say whether or not that the weapons were purchased?
Hold on a second.
Yeah, those firearms were found at the deceased body, not in a car. So he killed himself inside the storage unit, and the firearms were found at his in the area of his thigh and in the area of his feet. It was not in a car. There was evidence that was observed from outside the car that matched our crime scenes, meaning mask, clothing, satchel, which you can see on that video. And there was a main plate over a Florida plate. This guy was changing plates. One of the reasons it was so hard to find was he knew what he was doing. He was changing plates. And so, that's why the collective work of following and finding this car was made more difficult, because this guy was changing plates. So we got a main plate and we got a Florida plate on the same car in New Hampshire.
Patrick.
As he was a...
No, I'm sorry.
Especially,
I was just going to add.
Please.
Tom Greco again from ATF. It's okay. As far as the ballistics evidence, I know that the last question concerned matching the guns found to the crime scene. As Several people up here have said this investigation is ongoing, and in many ways, in some ways, just beginning. Those weapons that were found at the scene, we will be using our tools such as NIBIN to compare the ballistic evidence to see if we have any matches. So we use those tools to rule things in and to rule them out as well. So we'll be following up on that throughout the remainder of the investigation.
Patrick. Neves Valente was a Portuguese national. Under what status was he in the country, and how did he get into the country? Do we know at this point? I have a follow-up after that.
You have that answer?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I do. So as far as we know, he had a student visa. He had came in here with a student visa, and we also had learned that he had applied to get a green card.
Do you know, sorry, and for President Paxson, does Brown have
And Patrick, if I could just be clear on that, he got that lawful permanent resident status in September of 2017.
Thank you. I was going to ask, but then, and for President Paxson, has Brown had any communication from Neves Valente in the period after he left until now?
As far as I know, no. He has really gone off our radar. We will continue to cooperate with the police as they continue with the investigation to find anything we can find about him. But his last class that he took at Brown was in 2001.
Straight back.
This question's for the Colonel or the Attorney General. If you hadn't focused on the wrong person of interest on day one, do you think the professor in Massachusetts could be alive?
Well, from the beginning, I've told you that this investigation is extremely complex and intense. And so we used every resource as soon as we responded to the call. I stated that earlier. I'm proud of the men and women of this department. Yes, we did find somebody that we thought obviously was the person, but we continued on. We continued on investigating. We continued on canvassing the areas. We continued on with video. And that's why we ended up where we're at now.
Yeah, if I could just jump in here, I just want to continue to answer that question. It's an important one. And the answer to that is this, and I tried to convey it a couple of days ago. We broke ourselves out into teams. So while the Providence team and the State Police team and the ATF team were working here in Providence to follow up leads, develop whatever video evidence we can, which eventually led to all the steps that you've seen and are laid out in the affidavit, which is on our website, and it is multiple pages. You'll see the progression. So while the FBI were working Coventry, we were working here. Now, you may ask, well, what was it about Coventry that made us, for those of us who've been in law enforcement for a long time, why did we have to run that lead to ground? Here's why. When the FBI confronted him, initially, he was not cooperative. When they entered the room to secure it, there were guns in the room. One of them had a laser sight. The witnesses had told us there was a laser sight used in the course of the attack. Okay, we had to run that to ground. We couldn't just, not run that to ground. That was a very promising lead. But that's why you don't get over your skis about, and word choice is important. So while we had to test those ballistics and test the DNA off those guns, and that DNA ruled this guy out, okay? But we had to run that lead to ground. But while we're running that lead to ground over the course of Sunday, for the most part, my memory's correct, we were working other leads, which eventually led us through a recreation by the great work of the team, including the marshals, by the way, that are up here. Movements, image of our cooperating witness comes in, and you've heard the rest. So, this is the way these investigations work. You don't chase one and stop. We have chased more than one lead over the course of the last 4 to 5 days. There was one lead that we followed, didn't work out. There was another lead that we followed, didn't work out. There was another lead that we followed, didn't work out. So that's, at least in my mind, 5 different leads that one worked out, 4 didn't. But you're running them all down at the same time. So I can't offer any comfort in that regard, but I don't believe that we would have found this person any sooner, given the evidence that was available to us.
The way back.
Can you say why it took so long to get the tipster's tip? It looks like he posted on Reddit on Monday and then said on Reddit that he told the FBI. Was it lost in the FBI's tip?
We received the tip about that post and immediately acted on it. And so that's exactly what occurred. As soon as the tip came in, we had a tip center upstairs that was staffed, as I mentioned earlier, by detectives and agents. They were going through hundreds of tips that were coming in, hundreds. We were vetting them through, ruling them out, just like the general stated. We were making sure that whatever came in, we checked it to its entire to ensure that we weren't missing anything. And so when we got to that tip, obviously, it led us to that person I wanted to speak with, and I told you the rest earlier. So.
Yeah, and I just want to complete that too, because this is important. This person had to come forward. That's why we put the picture out. Once we put the picture out, he came forward, right? But we didn't know who that person was. We knew about what was on Reddit, but we didn't know who that person was. That's why when we identified another person, we didn't know when that person came forward that he was the Reddit poster. He then told us he was, okay? So all of these things kind of happened in that sequence.
Chris?
This Valente figure, this is a question for President Paxson. Do we know why he left school early in 2001? Did he have a history of mental illness that was expressed during that time or reported at that time?
No, we learned his name very, very recently, and we haven't had a chance to really dig into the records. But we will if it helps with the investigation.
This is another question about a follow-up question. This is another question about a student visa. He's here on a student visa now. What school is he affiliated with?
Yeah, so he's not here on a student visa now. He was initially. And then he applied for and received lawful permanent resident status in September of 2017. Okay?
Thank you. Go right here.
What was Mr. Valente's profession and how did you search his residence?
Again, as I stated earlier, we just identified who obviously that person, and this developed pretty quickly. So that's all part of the investigation that's coming.
Can you talk about, was there any interaction between any law enforcement before he died?
No, not that we know.
I have a follow-up for her.
There you go.
Do you know any associates of his family members, friends, roommates, and if there are any in the United States, did any of them come forward through the process of this investigation?
No, not at this time. This evolved extremely quickly. We've been at this for 6 days. And so here we are, and we now identify who the person is. We're about to make an apprehension. As I stated earlier, he took his own life, but that's all part of the investigation that will continue about him. Go ahead.
Okay, so for President Paxson, Chief Barrow said he had no known criminal history that you know of. You were asked about possible mental illness while he was here. When he was at Brown, did he have any grievances, disputes with anyone, any problems, any disciplinary issues, any problems at all that were documented?
Not that we know of at this point. I mean, again, these are very, very old records, you have to understand. We learned about this very recently. And I think going forward, as we want to learn more, we will cooperate with the investigation to give them the information they need.
Go ahead, in the white shirt.
Hi, Brittany, WCBB. This question is for Colonel Perez. You mentioned that Claudio was the primary suspect, primary focus from the beginning. If that's the case, can you elaborate more on why there was someone else detained initially, and the lead that led you to that person to being detained initially if Claudio was the primary focus from the beginning?
Yeah, so.
And I have a follow-up.
Sure, Brittany. Great question. So we have received a tip about that first person. We have received a tip about him wanting to get a permit to carry a firearm. And so that led us to also learn that he was a person who potentially could be, it was just where he was denied and then he went to another department and the descriptions led us there. So we had it vetted through. Obviously, the FBI responded, followed through that whole tip, ended up finding the person, taking him to custody, finding him with 2 firearms, with a laser. And so it took a while for us to be able to rule him out. But it was a tip that came in. And as I stated earlier, as soon as the call came in, it was all hands on deck. And there was nothing that we were just going to say that is not anything that had to do with it, with this case. Obviously, we wanted to make an apprehension, and we went after that. So.
I just if I could just jump in here, Mayor, I'm sorry to do that, but I think I heard you say that Mr. Valenti was the suspect from the start.
Primary focus.
No, he became the primary focus yesterday at around this time. This name was not known to us until yesterday. So when our cooperator came in last night, we were able to track the card, get the name, and then we were in the position of, today, do we push that name out so that you can help us find this guy, or do we think we know where he is? And so that was the balance that was that back and forth analysis in our minds, collective investigative team minds, was going on today. But his name did not come to us until yesterday. As I said yesterday, until you have the name, which we did not have until yesterday, after our press conference together, that's when this thing heated up. As soon as you have a name, I believe you can find anybody in this country. And the fact that this team was able to do it in around 24 hours, I think is a tribute to them, their hard work, around the clock, to do exactly what we have been talking about doing, which is how long is it going to take? And it took, roughly 5 days. And that's a tribute to them.
Brittany, if I could just clarify further on that. So what I meant, obviously, it was that the image that we released within hours of that person of interest that was walking on Waterman Avenue around the corner, that was sent out within minutes. That became a primary focus of the investigation of that person of
Thank you
interest.
for the clarification,
Yes.
and if I may, my
Please.
follow-up. I believe it said the last address for Valenti was in Miami.
Correct.
Have law enforcement in Miami been notified? Are they searching this last address for any potential evidence?
No, Brittany, absolutely. Yes, that address, I believe, was one that predicated in 2001. And so absolutely the law enforcement agencies, both federal and local, were notified of that. They also went to that residence as well, also talked to the individuals that was at that particular residence to see if they had any type of connections or associations with Valenti.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
On the way back?
Question for Coronel Perez, I'm sorry. For Univision, in Spanish if you can please. What's next? Do you have any leads on the motives? Como acaba de preguntar la colega, ya registraron la vivienda en la Florida. ¿Qué es lo que viene ahora? Si es que saben cuál fue su motivo para matar a estas personas.
Sí, vamos a seguir. So the question was, what's next, right? What are we going to do next? And so la respuesta es que vamos a seguir obviamente trabajando con las organizaciones federales y también entre nosotros buscando esa inteligencia de quién es esa persona, qué motivo lo trajo aquí a la ciudad de Providence a cometer esta tragedia, este incidente, pero eso va a tomar tiempo verdaderamente y vamos a tener que averiguar más para ver qué fue el motivo que llegó a esta ciudad.
¿Tienen alguna lista de qué podría haber sido? ¿Qué es lo que van a estar buscando ahora?
No, hasta el momento no, esto obviamente, como les acabo de explicar ahorita, lo identificamos hace poco.
Go ahead. Right there.
So it was the financial records that the federal agency followed through the investigation that led us to learn that this person had rented there, a storage unit. And so we responded immediately, and we found that the vehicle that we were looking for of interest was parked there.
Just one follow-up here.
Kate, go ahead.
Chief, can you speak a little bit more to that, again, identification of the vehicle of interest, the person who did that? And as you said, there was video captured. Could you walk us through that aspect of this? Was this the witness who provided to you the vehicle? Can you walk us through how that vehicle of interest entered the investigation and then had the follow-up?
Correct, yeah, it was part of the tip that was posted actually, and then also the tipster had called and had stated that this individual had a fob and was trying to enter a vehicle that was parked on Benevolent. And so because of that, we obviously knew there was a vehicle and there was a description of a vehicle. When we brought him in, he collaborated further on that vehicle. We put it out through Flock, the description of it, and we learned that within that time period, there was only a certain amount of vehicles that came up with those description fitness. So our detectives obviously stayed on that and ended up finding this vehicle with Florida plates, and that's how we ended up with that specific vehicle. Then we had learned that the vehicle also potentially could have changed their plates, and as I stated earlier, we were able to find the vehicle on Flock, actually get the actual plate, learn that it was a car rental, which brought us up to learn that that we needed to learn more at the rental place about the individual, which we did, and then further later. We find out, again, doing all the work that they did upstairs, I think it was tremendous too. If you had a chance and an opportunity to see how much work was put in, because it was bits and pieces of information. It's almost like putting a puzzle together. You only have just a few pieces, and you're building it. And that, later on, led us with the financial records to learn that he rented a storage unit in New Hampshire, and that's why we ended up.
Kate, your follow-up. To that one, the Chief or the Attorney General, you mentioned armed and potentially
Yeah.
dangerous was out there. The chief just spoke to license plates changing at a variety of moments, if you will. Was it too fast moving? Talk to us about weighing again that providing
Yeah.
information to the public with an armed and dangerous individual and vehicle use that involved multiple license plates and your decision not to sort of real time inform the public of it.
Yeah, so we knew yesterday, last night, who this guy was and that he had rented a car in Boston. So the question becomes, is he going to return the car to Boston? We got information he might return it to Connecticut. He didn't return it at all. But when we thought he might be returning it to the information, to the locations, we wanted to try to take him without him knowing we were coming. As soon as his name gets out there, he is going to be even more in the wind. And so the question becomes, if you think you might know where he is, right, eventually you find the storage unit, right, so you're following that up. But initially you think he might return the car to Boston on Atlantic Avenue, I believe, or in Connecticut, perhaps to board a flight somewhere. You're weighing, can I take this guy, because we know where he's going to be, and not alert him that we're coming. And so I would say this afternoon, we were going back and forth on that. But as the FBI and the ATF and our other partners, Providence Police, State Police, developed evidence as to where he was, ultimately in New Hampshire, we decided to pursue to that location. And there we found the car with those multiple plates that we were looking for. A Florida plate and a Maine plate on top of it.
No, right there, go ahead.
General, that DNA evidence, where was that tested? And also the firearms examinations. We have some trouble with the state lab here. Where were those?
I just wanted to touch real quick, and I know ATF is going to be able to answer you that, but that's a great.
Neves Valente dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The United States Attorney's Office in Boston, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New Hampshire have been working throughout the day to establish probable cause to charge Neves Valente. Earlier today, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Massachusetts filed a criminal complaint under seal detailing the chain of events over the past 6 days, including information that led us to today's search of the storage locker in New Hampshire. This is what we learned during this multi-jurisdictional investigation. Neves Valente studied at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island on an F1 visa around 2000 to 2021. He eventually obtained legal permanent resident status. Previously, he attended the same academic program as the MIT professor Nuno Loureiro in Portugal between 1995 and 2000. Although Neves Valente appeared to reside in Florida, between November 26th and November 30th of this year, he rented a hotel room in Boston. On December 1st, he rented a gray Nissan Sentra with Florida plates from a car rental agency in Boston. That same day, he drove to the vicinity of Brown University, where his car was observed intermittently between December 1st and December 12th. On December 13th, Neves Valente entered an auditorium on Brown University's campus during a study session and began shooting at students, killing Ella Cook and Mohammed Aziz Umarzokov and injuring 9 others. Between December 13th and December 14th, Neves Valente returned to Massachusetts. On December 15th, he murdered MIT professor Nuno Loureiro at Loureiro's home in Brookline, Massachusetts. At some point while he was in Massachusetts, he switched the plates on the Nissan Sentra to an unregistered plate out of Maine. Immediately following Professor Loureiro's murder, Neves Valente drove to a storage facility in Salem, New Hampshire, where he had rented a storage unit in November of this year. Since the December 13th shootings at Brown and the December 15th shooting in Brookline, state, local, and federal law enforcement officials have been working hand in hand around the clock to identify the shooter and prevent him from inflicting further harm. I have said this before and will continue to believe when law enforcement agencies work together, crimes are solved and the public is protected. The information we provided to you tonight would not be possible without the dedicated men and women of law enforcement in multiple districts throughout New England, including the FBI, ATF, HSI, the U.S. Marshal Service, Massachusetts State Police, Rhode Island State Police, Providence Police, Brookline Police, and the Brown University Police. In addition, prosecutors for the Rhode Island Attorney General's Office and the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, and federal prosecutors from Rhode Island, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts all contributed to this result. I also want to thank Attorney General Pam Bondi for her support in coordinating the federal response.
Can you tell us anything about his motive and the two sets of victims and how they might be related and how he might be related to them?
That is not information that we can share right now, but as soon as that information becomes available, we will share that with the public.
Are you able to say anything of what led you to link the two crimes, perhaps initially?
Can you repeat the question so we can hear you now?
Yes, the question was how were we able to link him to the two crimes? So investigators identified the vehicle that he had rented in Boston and then drove to Rhode Island. And he was seen the vehicle was seen outside of Brown, and there was security footage that showed a person who resembled him. There was financial investigations that were going on in the background that linked him not only to that car, but also to the hotels that he had rented and the car that he had used to not only drive to Rhode Island, but then back to Boston. And then there was the security footage that captured him within a half mile of the professor's residence in Brookline. And there is a video footage of him entering an apartment building in the location of the professor's apartment. And then later that evening, he is seen about an hour later entering the storage unit wearing the same clothes that he had been seen wearing right after the murder.
So you have an extensive video canvas as part of this investigation. That leaves you no doubt.
This is the evidence we have right now. We are coming to you tonight because the federal complaint was unsealed, and we wanted to provide you with the information and to assure the public that law enforcement collectively believe that we have the person, that we identified the person, and that person is dead, and that he was the person responsible not only for the Brown shootings, but for the Brookline shooting.
Can you speak to, before the self-inflicted gunshot wound, was there any interaction between law enforcement and Heather Valente, like, any words exchanged or anything like that?
No, when investigators went into the storage facility tonight to execute the federal search warrant, he was dead.
Do you think he entered there this evening?
No.
He entered an hour after what happened in Brookline?
Yes.
And do you know how long that storage, did he rent that? Like how long?
Our understanding from the financial investigation is that he had rented a storage facility at the location in Salem, New Hampshire in November.
Can you confirm whether or not he used the same weapon in the Brown shooting as he did in the MIT shooting?
Ballistics investigation was ongoing and has not been completed at this time, so we're not going to comment on that.
Can you give us any sense of when you started to recognize perhaps that he was the same person? I know it was through the video, but when it sort of dawned on investigators that these two cases were related?
It was in the last 24 to 48 hours that my understanding, according to my understanding, is when the link began to be established. And that was mainly, he was using a phone that was obfuscating ability to track it. And he was using financial, not credit cards that were tied to his name. And so he was sophisticated in hiding his tracks.
According to the complaint that was unsealed, it says that Ms. Valente and the MIT professor had attended the same academic program together in Portugal from 1995 to 2000. Do you know if they knew each other? Or
My understanding is that they did know each other.
Have they been in communication since that last date?
I don't have any information to provide you.
Would you call this targeted?
We're still investigating the motive in this case and trying to, because like I said, he was very careful in his communications, and we just don't have any information right now to answer that question. But when we get that information, we will share it.
Was there anything else in the storage locker?
The storage locker in which his body was found, my information is that no.
Was that satchel in the storage?
Yes.
locker? What was in it?
Can you repeat the question? I can't hear you online.
So the question was there anything else in the storage unit aside from the defendant's body? And the answer is he was found in there with his satchel. There was nothing else found in there that I am aware of, but they're still in the process of searching that facility right now.
Did he kill himself right away?
We don't have any information when he killed himself, but he was dead when investigators found his body.
Can you tell us anything about his life? Like, I think you said the last known address was in Florida. Like, what he was doing? Was he working? Was he in the field of physics, which he had studied? Any sort of biographical stuff you can tell us about him?
Because his identity was only become aware to us in the last 24 hours, I can't provide you with any of that information right now, but I'm sure once we have a full understanding of what he has been doing, where he has been, aside from the time when he entered into New England in November, we will provide that information.
Besides the MIT professor, did you know any of the victims at Brown University personally?
We have no information that he knew any of the victims or anyone who was at that auditorium on the night that he went in and killed.
Have you been able to find anything about when he did attend Brown, whether there were any issues? If he was there briefly, was he kicked out? Do you know?
That information hasn't been provided to us yet.
Given what you see on the video of the MIT professor's home, is there any doubt that he was the intended target of the killing?
The information that I know, and again, the investigations are going to continue to be able to provide you with all the answers that you are asking, is that there was no doubt that he was the intended target.
What was inside that satchel?
That is information that is still being, the investigators are still on the scene right now conducting that investigation, and we haven't received information as to what was in the satchel.
Was there any suicide note?
No information right now.
How about in terms of the charges themselves? I mean, there was the crime in Rhode Island and also the 1 year. How does that sort of get sorted out? How does he get charged, et cetera?
So there are state crimes, including the murders, and then there are the federal crimes, which is one that we brought tonight. The jurisdictions are working together, and we have been sharing information together and encouraging everyone to share information that could result in solving the crimes that were committed in their jurisdictions. And we will continue to do that if there are any doubts that are left with closing out those investigations. We will continue to share all the information so that we can share with you whatever motivations come to light as to why these heinous crimes were committed.
Are you confident, I guess maybe that's not the right word, but do you believe that he acted alone, or is there any evidence that anyone else was traveling with him when he came here?
We have no information that he was acting in concert with anyone else right now.
Anything interesting found in the car?
That search is still underway, but we will provide you again with more information as soon as we get it.
Anything more you can tell us about, you said he hid his own tracks. Can you talk about that a little bit, what he did?
So he was using an application on his phone, and there have been a couple of things. The Google phone doesn't allow officers to ping the direct location and get real-time location information about the phone. There was also beliefs that he was using SIM cards that were possibly European SIM cards that are carried through a provider in the United States but does not provide real-time information about tower connections.
In the car?
The vehicle, we have video of him renting the car at Enterprise here in Boston.
And the fake plate from Maine was just...
We haven't figured out now where he got that plate from. It was an unregistered plate in Maine. We have information that that plate was a very old plate that had been taken out of the registration status over a decade ago.
When his body was found, can you just describe what he was surrounded by? Can you just paint the picture as to what was in that unit?
What I can say is he rented one unit. His body was found in a unit that was not occupied, and there was nothing else in there from what I have heard, but this is information that I was getting an hour or two ago from agents who were conducting the searches there. When we get further information, the information will be made public, including in the returns for the search warrant that we obtained this evening.
Was he living in it effectively since after the Brookline incident?
I have no information right now as to the unit that he had actually rented. The tactical teams were there to search, and they were obviously concerned that there could be booby traps or other types of security issues. And so when they noticed that that storage unit was still locked from the outside, it was clear that he couldn't be inside. And so they started searching the abandoned or the non-occupied units with the approval of the management, and that is when they found the body right next door.
I know that you haven't had much time. Does he have any sort of criminal record that you know of at this point in time?
We are not aware of any criminal record in the United States.
Do you have any information about his life in Florida? What he did, where he lived?
My understanding, it was South Florida. I know that they know the address, but nothing has been made public about that yet, and I'm assuming that there will be searches.
Profession, anything, what he did down there?
I have no information.
And just to be clear, did he fly up from Florida for this, do you think? Did he travel from Florida?
Again, the motive, and we have information of his being in New England throughout 2025, but once we get the information about why he came up here, what drove him to be up here, we will share that with the public.
Any information on how long he had been a lawful permanent resident of the U.S.?
I don't have that information.
Well, I mean, the only two ties that you have or can talk about now is he went to Brown and he went to this graduate school with the professor in Portugal. I mean, those are the only two ties that you can talk about now in terms of their relationship.
That is correct right now.
Is it graduate school or undergrad?
Whatever it was, I'm sure it's in the.
They were in school.
Yeah, do you have a question?
Do you know if he was in contact with anybody either immediately before coming to New England or after he got here?
That is not information that we have to share right now.
Just one more?
Do you know, did he have any contact with anybody else, besides, the rental, the hotel, in his travels?
That is information that I don't have to share with you right now.
There's one question,
Yep, go ahead.
question. Is there, there was been some reports on social media by this, saying that a man who was homeless and was sort of living at Brown was the one who sort of saw him and thought he was suspicious and took his plate number and then was urged by other people on Reddit to make sure he reported. Is that true? You say there was a witness, but is that his account true, that he's the one that helped break this, or gave a crucial tip? How would you describe that?
We did receive information from a witness who encountered him after the Brown shooting and gave information that was very helpful to the investigation and in identifying Neves Valente.
You're gonna get the 50,000?
We'll let you know.
What did you say about him? Is he homeless person?
The accounts that are on the record right now is what we can comment on, but we will provide, again, more information so that the public will have
Thank you, guys.
confidence in our investigations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
45 minutes. We have the suspect here currently on your screen, found dead in Salem, New Hampshire. This is 48-year-old Claudio Neves Valente. We're going to bring in Boston 25 News anchor Cale Thompson on more on this specific suspect and how did we get here, this timeline of events.
Well, and you know, this goes back to, for us, the shooting on Saturday the 13th. But police now say that Valente was here much sooner than that. In fact, this is a photo taken November 17th. When he arrived, they say this would have been him picking up the, I want to make sure I'm reading this right. This still shot was taken from Alamo Rent-A-Car November 17th, showing Valente picking up the car that he drove while he was here. Another picture here from this affidavit, appearing to be in the parking lot there of the rental facility or a rental facility, wearing a blue sweater here versus what you see here. I want to point out, look closely. What he is wearing here on November 17th is the same thing that we saw in those enhanced photos. The jacket here, the same that we saw in some of those surveillance images. Again, you have photos of him here. This is a flock camera that captured the Nissan Sentra that he was driving at the time. And reading through the affidavit here, I just want to touch on this for a moment. Cameras picked up this car 14 different times in the area near Brown University prior to the shooting. The first time was on December 1st. December 1st. Again, the shooting happened Saturday on the 13th. So authorities had said that they believe that he might have been casing the area beforehand, up to a week beforehand. Appears as though it would have been longer than that. Here's another shot of that car right there. And it's interesting because you heard about the person they were looking for who may have come in close contact with their person of interest. Remember that? It was the second person that they were looking for, or I guess technically the third. But they were not calling that person a suspect, just a person who may have run into the person of interest. Well, in these documents, they're identified as John. Apparently, John saw this car, thought it looked unusual, confronted the driver about it, and discovered, after watching the news, that he recognized some of the people, or some of the individual seen in some of those surveillance photos wearing that jacket right there. Rachel, we'll send it back over to you. There's a lot to go through here. It's 33 pages. It has photos. It has some of the best information that we now have. Of course, Valente, now dead, authorities were saying, of a self-inflicted gunshot wound that appears to have happened in this storage facility in Salem, New Hampshire tonight before police arrived. Leah Foley, the U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts, saying here in just the last couple of minutes that he was already dead when authorities arrived to serve a warrant, a search warrant on that facility tonight.
Cale, thank you. And more on that witness. There were actually multiple witnesses before and after the shooting that ended up talking to police. I want to bring up the first witness, the witness, the citizen that was outside, which eventually we found out was the person that they were looking for. As Cale mentioned, that citizen noticed the suspect before the shooting outside of the university and was caught on camera actually running after him and confronted him. And police saw that encounter on surveillance video, and that's why they were looking for that particular citizen. And they said within an hour that person came to police and provided really all of the information that they need. The Attorney General in Rhode Island said that that particular witness actually broke the case for them.
And that video, as they were hoping for, once it was released, that's how the series of events escalated very quickly into what we have today.
And some major developments before we send it back up to New Hampshire with our reporter Drew Caritas. We now know that there is a relationship between the suspect and the MIT professor, unfortunately, that was killed in Brookline. We were told that the suspect and the professor were in the same program in Portugal in 1995. That was confirmed that the two did know each other prior to the shooting.
The suspect was a student at Brown at one point. So more now coming up over the border in Salem, New Hampshire. We've got Drew Caritas, who's been covering that end for us. And the tow truck arrived, we understand?
The tow truck has arrived here for the Nissan Sentra that was rented in Boston by this 48-year-old Portuguese national. A lot of information to digest here. Investigators believe he killed himself inside a storage unit that was not being rented here. He had rented a unit here. That is not where his body was found. Investigators say 2 guns were found near his body in the storage facility where he was found deceased. At the time, investigators did not know if he was still alive here. They did not know if there was a booby trap or other security issues, which is why they approached the situation with a great deal of caution. Authorities are now revealing that he rented a storage unit at this facility less than 3 miles away from the Rockingham Mall back in November and had been crisscrossing through 3 different New England states over the course of 3 different months. And this is where he came after the murder of the MIT professor who we're now learning he had known from a university program in Portugal. We still do not know the motive in that case, but the U.S. Attorney's Office in Boston believes that professor was the intended target. Still no word on why the students were killed and the students were wounded at Brown University, if they were the intended targets or what was the motive there. We're still waiting to learn all of that information, but a great deal of information was revealed about this suspect's arrival here in the state of Massachusetts and what he had been doing over the course of several months. Claudio Devis Valente, his body was found here. We do not know exactly when he took his own life. A satchel also found here on the property. We do not know what was inside that satchel. We also don't know what was inside the vehicle, but as you just mentioned, a tow truck is here to remove that vehicle from the property, a vehicle in which he had been driving for quite a while and switching out plates, as we've been learning. First, the Florida plates that were initially on the vehicle when he rented it, and then a main plate that he had put on at one point, as we've learned, that was not registered. We don't know where he got that plate or at what point he put that on, but we did learn that flock cameras were pivotal in locating the vehicle's whereabouts, and financial records helped lead authorities here to this storage facility on Hampshire Road. We do not know what this suspect was doing here in Salem, New Hampshire, why he chose this specific facility, but it is believed he came here right after the murder of MIT professor Nuno Loureiro in Brookline back on Monday. We're going to be working this scene throughout the course of the night and breaking this all down. A lot of information to process here. For now, that's the latest live here in Salem, New Hampshire. Drew Caritas for your local station, Boston 25 News.
All right, Drew, great work up there. And now let's bring in Carrie, Bob, and Dan Linsky as well, who've been here throughout the night. And Bob, with your sources that you've had with Ted Daniel as well, really, you guys kept everybody informed. And right up until the news was officially announced, we basically knew prior, and you too, Dan Linsky, you had said this appeared to be a suicide.
Yeah, you know, Mark, an incredible night, and we've been covering new information all night long, but there's still a lot we don't know about the motive, most importantly, the motive. Right. We know now that the paths crossed between this suspect and the MIT professor.
Decades ago.
And you know, they're not talking motive, but one thing we've been talking about is if it was some kind of grudge, something happened between them. Well, they were last together 25 years ago. It's a long time.
They both studied physics in university in a program in Lisbon, Portugal, and then you must assume that they both come to the United States maybe around the same time. We know that the suspect was a student at Brown University in the early 2000s, did not complete a program, took a leave of absence, and then eventually just withdrew from the university.
Meantime,
Meantime,
the professor goes on to become world-renowned in his field. He was decorated by President Biden just this year in January. So you have 2 completely different paths. But it's just amazing, Dan, to think that possibly there was an age-old grudge, a grudge that went back decades that may have fueled all this.
It certainly could be a grudge. I've been hearing from folks that they had known each other, and that's certainly an avenue that has to be run down. There are also people who studied the same subject matter, a unique subject matter that's, interesting and a cause for concern. This individual has been from Miami up here for a number of weeks, and using rent-a-cars, using a cellular phone that has the ability and capability, and obviously operated to detect or to deter detection from folks following geolocation as the phone moved. It took some resources to rent hotel rooms. It took some resources to rent cars. Took some resources to rent a storage unit. And this looks like pre-operational planning, that this was not I'm going to show up and do this one day. This had been going on, and he clearly had surveilled the Brown campus for a significant period of time prior to his assault.
Well, I was just going to say, Chief, that down in Rhode Island, they said that, you know, even though however many years ago, 25 years ago, he attended Brown, studied physics, all the physics classes were in that building where the shooting happened. They're still in that building, so clearly he had some familiarity from years ago with that. I think Leah Foley, the U.S. attorney, said moments ago that he was very sophisticated in covering his tracks, and I think it was at the Boston press conference, Dan, that she said he was using credit cards that were not in his name. So that raises the question, well, whose were they?
Yeah, Kerry, this all points to tradecraft of an individual who is trained and prepared to do an attack. And, you know, there are several different classifications of folks who have that training and capability. And that is something that needs to be followed up on and will be followed up on by the authorities in these cases, because this was not your average disgruntled mental health individual who decided to go back and avenge a grudge. This had been planned and operationally thought out prior to the first attack and murder and the second attack and murder. And because of that, we have to make sure that we're following up on exactly what motivations were here and to see if there was any logistical support.
And Dan, to fly 1,500 miles away from his home. He was living in Miami, not living in Boston.
Right.
And came here back in October and was here for weeks, you know, maybe learning the lay of the land. He'd been familiar with Brown University back in the day, but he'd been here for a long time, renting the car, having an apartment in Boston, going up to Salem, New Hampshire to rent a storage unit. Why go up to Salem, New Hampshire? There are plenty of places around here that you could do that. It really does speak to this premeditation. He knew what he wanted to do. He planned it. And this is the tragic result. I just want to go real quick into, for me, because I've been covering the Brookline end of this story this week, the interesting new bit of information there is that they said there was video of him within a half mile of the MIT professor on Monday night. And then there was video of him about an hour later up at the storage unit. And that's how they believe 100% that he was the person that shot and killed the MIT professor. And it turns out that the car, for all of his changing of license plates and SIM cards and everything, it looks like it was the car that was ultimately his undoing.
Yeah, absolutely. And the witness, right? The witness and the person who came forward to talk about their encounter and what they had seen. It's the car, the financial records that showed that he had a place up in Salem, New Hampshire. The thing we don't know, and we're going to need the ME's office to weigh in, did he murder the Brookline professor, go up to New Hampshire and commit self-harm? Or did he wait until today when authorities were outside the facility to do such a thing? And my impression was that he didn't commit self-harm in his own storage unit. He was in an additional storage unit where he did it. So it'd be interesting to know when that self-harm occurred. Was it right after the murder of the professor, or was it authorities were closing in on him?
Well, Chief, we have a little bit of insight here because we have this affidavit from Rhode Island officials that said he made a phone call today. So this is this picture we've been showing you of him inside the Alamo. He apparently called this Alamo location today and Hartford to say he wanted to change a drop-off location. December 18th, that was today. That phone call goes into the Hartford Alamo, and it just so happened that an HSI agent was there, according to this affidavit, when that phone call came in. So that would indicate that at some point today he was still alive, and that had to be another big break that set them on this path, leading all these officials up to Salem.
Yeah, and that probably means that they, not only identified the phone call, they probably identified cell phone tower location, although he was trying to avoid that, and said he's possibly up in Salem, which means that he waited to commit self-harm until he was surrounded. if he was calling Connecticut to arrange a different drop-off, then he wasn't done yet. He had other plans to continue going forward. There's no reason to call and arrange another drop-off if you're intending to take your life in that storage unit. So it might have been the interaction of law enforcement arriving on scene that caused his self-harm.
All right, Boston 25 security analyst Dan Linsky, thank you for your time. Stick around. We have much more to discuss with you. And Carrie and Bob, thanks so much for your coverage and dedication to this tonight.
Absolutely.
And we are going to take a quick break.
Right.
We will have continuing coverage.
We are back. Let's take a look at some pictures right here. Dan Linsky, just wanted to ask you, we talked about how he was very good at covering his tracks, and this is what many people in law enforcement had said as well. But you see the jacket on the left. We've all been used to seeing that. We've seen it for days now on end. And then on the right, you can see how much heavier he is with that bundled up jacket on than he is on the right. But that jacket on the left, for all his planning and everything else, he went into the rent-a-car lobby wearing that unique brown, blue jacket that's been all over the news for the last 6 days.
And
you're right, Mark. And then if you look at the photograph on the far right, he assumed the same parade rest position that he's seen on the video doing. And, you know, people were obviously critical of Brown and critical of the video they had. They did a video surveillance around their community, developed video, and we're putting the video out. And thankfully, the media and the authorities were putting that video out. Absent the, assistance from the witness that came forward, it would have been obvious to people that this is the same guy. His mannerisms, the way in which he carried himself, his gait, the way in which he's walked. Apparently, he's got a right issue on his side of his body with his hip. And that same parade rest position, you can see him doing that in the other videos that we saw. So
So hands
kudos
behind
to
the back
putting the info
stood out for
Right.
sure.
Yeah, the same
Yep,
exact
absolutely.
positioning was
You can
seen
see it
in
even in your head
surveillance
without
footage.
seeing it. You know, we've seen it so much.
So much, right.
But hey, it helped get the collar, that's for sure. No, we're actually taking a look at it right here.
All right.
Lots of people were asking me, well, will this be helpful? And, I said, my mother can tell my brother and I from 1,000 yards away by the look of our necks and our shoulders. And anyone who knew him, who engaged with him, coworkers, maybe even the people in the hotel that he was renting from would say, I've seen that guy before. So the idea of putting that information out and the public assisting, just like the Luigi Mangione case, was successful. And this guy is held accountable. And, the colonel at Rhode Island Police had the ability to say to his families and victims, similar to what I did, the men who hurt the men, in my case, who hurt your families will hurt no one again. So a good conclusion to a horrible event and lessons learned for all. And we'll be looking at this for weeks and months to come to see if there are things that we could have done better and things we can improve.
Yep.
But in the end, the good guys get the bad guy.
All right, Dan, appreciate your insight as always. It was tremendous tonight and throughout the week when you've joined us as well.
We're going to take a
Thanks,
quick
Mark.
break and your forecast on the other side of this break, and more continuing coverage on the Brown University shooting and the shooting death of an MIT professor this week. We'll be right back.
This is a Boston 25 weather alert.
We're on weather alert, of course, for a storm tomorrow that'll bring some rain beginning at the morning commute, but it's the middle of the day, 10 to 3, when we'll see the peak wind and the heaviest rain. By your evening commute, things are already drying, but it will stay windy. The wind is my top concern here, but I wanted to show you the rain too, and here it is through the morning, falling heavily at times, and then beginning to lessen quickly by the time we get to about that 3 to 4 o'clock window. Wind gusts will be strong enough that I expect there will be some power outages during the day tomorrow. You can see these peak gusts anywhere from about 50 to 60 miles per hour. They'll be highest along the hilltops, the coastline, the Cape and Islands as well. And of course, if you have any decorations that may be apt to blowing away or aren't secured, you'll really need to take care of those first thing tomorrow. The rest of your weekend is going to be colder. Saturday's breezy. It'll feel like it's in the 20s. Sunday's the day to get the last minute shopping done because we warm up just a bit, and then we have colder temperatures leading into the Christmas holiday.
Tucker, thank you. And quite a night here, as we found out with these press conferences just wrapped up. It gave us a lot more of an understanding, but this day started one way and ended quite another, didn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
We now know the suspect. That suspect has been identified. We know his name, Claudio Valente. This is him on your screen. 48 years old, former Brown University student, has a relationship, confirming, with the MIT professor that was killed in Brookline, Nuno Loureiro. And we heard some details in terms of the timeline. We heard that his initial address was in Miami, Florida, and he has been here in New England over the last several weeks. He's been spotted on surveillance cameras at a rental spot.
Yeah, down on Atlantic Avenue. And, you know, for a lot of people, and we were just discussing this off air, is that he was among us.
He was.
He was here in Boston. He had the hotel booked. He had the car taken. And, you know, and then you think about the fact that we know he was in Boston because of the shooting on Monday night and the loss of that professor who was just outstanding in his field and were former classmates.
In 1995, and there he is, Nuno Loureiro, shot to death in his home in Brookline. And this was a multi-state investigation. Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Connecticut, everyone working together, looking at financial records. Valente used credit cards that were not in his name and SIM cards. And we want to take one last look at the other two victims that lost their lives. On the left is 19-year-old Ella Cook, and on the right is freshman Muhammad Aziz. And their family is getting some justice tonight, but obviously that doesn't bring back their children.
No, it doesn't. And this time of year especially difficult. But tonight there's a measure of justice. Appreciate you watching, everyone.
Have a good night.
More on the morning show, 5 a.m.